So a few more people have joined in, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So welcome everyone to today's session. So today's session is actually going to be circled around trying to understand, or us sharing, what kind of UX research resources that you can leverage on or tap into, especially when you're trying to kickstart your career in the space, right? So as Research Bookmark, we've been working on availing these sort of UX research resources in a more convenient way and in a way that it's easier for people to manage, to trace, to save, and to sort of stay updated with what is actually happening in the space, right? So one of the reasons we actually created this session is to kind of enlighten you on the different UX resources that you can actually use, as that is one of the questions that I've been getting from different people that I have been mentoring in terms of what can I actually use, and also realize that there are a lot of UX resources that we're actually not aware of that we can actually tap into, and just basically to share or to help you guys stay updated with what has been happening in the UX field, right? So today's session is actually going to be geared towards that. So kind of sharing tips and resources and UX resources that you guys can leverage on, and then showing you how you can actually access those different resources on the Research Bookmark platform. So the agenda is going to be pretty much simple. We have around like 45 minutes for this. So I'm going to start with sort of like tips on essential resources that you as an aspiring UX professional can consider and tap into to kickstart your career. And then we're going to go into a demo session where I'm going to show you how you can actually access these resources on the platform. And I'm going to use very practical use cases that are actually relatable to you, so that you're able to sort of put yourself in, the shoes of a particular user that relates to you, and then you can be able to see how you would essentially tap into Research Bookmark to get the resources that you need. And then we'll have a Q&A session, and then at the end of it, we'll have some announcements on some new developments that we've launched as Research Bookmark. So just kind of start off, I kind of wanted to just reintroduce what Research Bookmark is, and then kind of go into the main agenda of our session. So Research Bookmark is essentially a research hub of UX research resources. So we house a lot of different UX resources spanning from books to communities to tools, and even UX related articles that you can actually tap into whenever you're trying to obtain any knowledge pertaining either a project that you're doing or any research project or UX project that you could actually be working on, right? So something else we're also trying to do is sort of provide augmented learning services, especially to those who are trying to get into the field. When I talk about augmented learning services, it's more of, we're trying to introduce a different approach when it comes to obtaining UX education, rather than the traditional ways that people have actually been trying to gain and obtain knowledge, right? So our mission is actually very simple: to democratize access to quality UX resources for aspiring UX professionals globally. So I'm in Kenya, in Africa, where UX is still growing, it's still a young field. So Research Bookmark is sort of like one resource that I feel could greatly help UX professionals in position or in areas such as where I am. So let's sort of like start on in regards to like the main agenda for this session, right? So we're trying to establish and share what resources do you actually need. So I believe for everyone who's trying to get into this space, or someone who's still in this space, the one question that sometimes we always ask ourselves is, what do I need, right? But it's always driven by a certain reason. So either you are trying to, transition into the space, or you're trying to work on a certain project. And the one question that always lingers in your mind is, what am I trying to achieve, right? And there are quite a number of, I'd say, resources that we recommend people to sort of tap into first, and then there are others that they sort of like they could look at later. And the way we sort of arrange these resources is sort of, I'd say it's geared towards people who are trying to kickstart their career in the space. So they're either people who are young in the field, they're trying to transition in the field, or they just recently got into the field and they're in sort of like internship, apprenticeship, or junior roles, right? So some of the resources that we recommend that you kind of tap into or look into are courses. So for the courses, we recommend enrolling in like online courses, UX courses, to just gain the structural and the foundational knowledge on UX, right? So there are a number of like free and paid UX courses that you can actually obtain from Coursera, Udemy, EDX, and even other sort of UX geared sort of platforms, right? So we actually have all those courses on our platform, and during the demo, I'll kind of take you guys to the specific places to show you exactly what, how you can access those courses and how you can search for courses based on specific topic areas. Another thing that I usually recommend to people who are trying to get into the space and kickstart their careers is to join UX related communities. So joining communities and forums that are dedicated to UX design and research usually enables you to sort of connect with professionals who are already in the field. And they're also one of the best places to actually seek guidance and learn from shared experiences. In some communities, I've also seen that, some of the communities you can actually share or seek feedback when it comes to either like your portfolio and resume reviews, and there are always people who are always open and willing to help. Right. Another thing that we always recommend people to tap into is books and podcasts. So books are for people who prefer reading or consuming written content, and then podcast is for people who prefer either listening to like an audiobook or listening to like audio sort of content when it comes to trying to learn a certain thing, right? So our platform has a curated list of books that are written by industry experts, and they span across different fields from planning research to conducting like research to psychology to anthropology, and just sort of like UX and the fields that are actually related to the UX field, right? So we have books like, for example, Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. We have The Design of Everyday Things by Don Morman. We also have a book called I Want a UX Job as well. So we have like different books, and we're always updating them so that you can be able to stay up to date with what books you can actually read and just, stay updated. Another thing that we recommend is project archives or challenges. So one of the things that I usually emphasize or tend to suggest to people when it comes to trying to kickstart your career in the field is to try and get your hands on real life projects or hands-on experiences, right? And there are several ways that you can actually be able to do this. One is by seeking volunteering opportunities. So you could consider volunteering your skills for like non-profit organizations or charities or community projects, and just sort of gain that hands-on experience and allow yourself to work on real-world projects, which you can ultimately be able to add to your portfolio, right? Another way you can be able to sort of gain this experience is trying to, seek or reach out to businesses that are within your locality, and either asking whether you could actually work on their website or whichever product they have, seeing if you can be able to improve the user experience of those products. And then another way to gain the hands-on experience is, of course, looking for internships or actually applying for jobs in actual companies where you can get a chance to work on actual products. Another resource we recommend is UX vocabularies. So, it's good to actually build a strong UX vocabulary by familiarizing yourself with industry-specific terms and concepts. So whenever you find yourself working or inducted into a team of UX professionals, it's always good if you're aware of the different terminologies and jargons that that are actually being thrown around, right? And then whenever you're actually given task or whenever you're going through any research artifacts, once you're knowledgeable about the different terms and jargons, it becomes easier to sort of comprehend what is written in those artifacts and to comprehend what you're actually supposed to do. So we actually have a list of, I'd say, hundreds and hundreds of, I'd say, terminologies that you can actually look into. So whenever you're curious about, or you've heard of a certain terminology and you want to know what it means, I'm going to show you guys exactly how you can go and seek for more information about the specific terminologies on the platform. Another one that we recommend or we highly recommend is to familiarize yourself with research methods. So if you're a UX professional, the ultimate goal is to be able to get a job and work on actual projects, right? And the one thing you'll do when working on different projects is leverage or utilize on different research methodologies. So familiarizing yourself with these methodologies like user interviews, usability testings, ethnographic studies, like it enables you to be able to gather valuable insights and also make informed UX or design decisions, right? And then also understanding the different methods enables you to know when and how you can actually utilize these methods, and you're able to sort of like justify the reasons why you pick specific methods for specific projects. Another thing is, of course, tools. So for anyone who's actually working on any specific project, there is one or several tools that you're actually going to leverage on, right? So it could be tools for scheduling, it could be tools for recruiting, it could be tools for interviewing, and tools for even analyzing your research, right? So being familiar or being aware of these different tools that you can actually use, it can help you sort of know exactly how to carry out your UX activities. And also you can be able to know exactly what to leverage on when it comes to creating like the UX deliverables that you can be able to share with your team. Last but not least, we're going to talk, we recommend people to actually attend events. So this spans from webinars and conferences. So nowadays there are a lot of webinars that are actually geared towards UX. And that is one area that Research Bookmark is well known for. So we're always holding webinar events that are geared towards different topics in UX and UX research. And then, of course, there are also conferences that happen every year, right, that are geared towards the UX field that you can actually attend. So the good thing about, I'd say, webinars is most webinars that have been tracking are actually usually free, right? And there are a lot of different ways to be able to stay up to date with this sort of webinars. And one of the ways you can actually do that is through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has a filter called events that you can actually use to track or look for events based on specific topics, right? So you could go on LinkedIn and type something like usability testing, for example, and then filter by events and see if there are any events or any webinars that are actually occurring that are geared towards usability testing. So LinkedIn is one place you can look for events. Another place you can look for events is Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is really common or really famous with listing different events that span from not only the UX field, but other fields as well. So you could also search for webinars and events to actually attend there. And then, of course, on Research Bookmark, we are always trying to ensure that we have a fully updated list of conferences, and we also have an events calendar that you can use to track the different events that are actually taking place. So last but not least, we're going to talk about articles. So aside from visual sort of content, one of the things we usually, of course, recommend people is to keep reading articles, right? So NNG, IDF, Smash Magazine, UX Booth, and even Research Bookmark, we are always availing different articles over time every week that are geared towards different subjects on or different aspects on UX research. So it's always good to kind of read these different articles. And the one thing that we've actually done as Research Bookmark is we've sort of organized these different articles based on different areas. So we actually have a collection of articles that are organized in a way that if you're trying to conduct end-to-end research, we have articles that are specifically organized in that manner. So you can be able to sort of maneuver and see what articles can I read when it comes to planning research. If I'm in the phase of analyzing research and I'm trying to look for maybe articles on thematic analysis, where I can actually find those articles, right? So I'm going to show you guys exactly how you can obtain that, right? So those are just a number of, I'd say, resources that I would recommend you seek out. And you can find these resources on the Research Bookmark platform, but you can also find them outside of the Research Bookmark platform, right? So just take your time and sort of try to look for these resources and see what best sort of, what you can consume and what you are able to easily consume and can sort of help you in terms of obtaining the knowledge and the practical experience that you need. So we're going to do a demo of the platform, and I'm going to show you guys exactly where the resources are and how you can actually tap on them. But to kind of make it a bit more relatable, I'm actually going to use two use cases, right? Where I'm going to have you guys sort of put yourselves in a particular user's shoes, and then you can be able to see like how that sort of a user would be able to actually tap into the Research Bookmark platform and obtain and access the resources that they actually need. So we're going to start with the first practical use case. So for this use case, we have an individual called Sarah. So Sarah is an aspiring UX researcher. She recently completed a UX course and is eager to kickstart her career in the field, right? So, however, she's feeling overwhelmed with the vast amount of information and resources available. She's looking for a platform that can provide her with the essential UX resources and guidance to get started. So the question is, how would this particular user, or how would Sarah actually use the platform to assist her in her journey? So we're going to go into the Research Bookmark platform, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how Sarah would actually use this platform to kickstart her career in the UX field. So the first place that I would, of course, like recommend for Sarah to go into is kind of like look into like the books category. So to access the books category, you can actually click on this section that is called the RB collections. So once you click on the RB collections, it takes you to a list or a collection of different UX resources, and one of those resources is actually books. So all she needs to do is she needs to just come and click on books. So Sarah will click on books, and then inside the books collection, she's actually going to be able to search for different books, based on certain topics. So it could be based on like a research methodology. So let's say she's trying to look for a book on user interviews, right? So she can just come here and type in interviews, and then she's actually going to get a list of different books that are actually, I'd say, centered around like the topic of like interviewing users, right? So she could be looking for maybe a book on data analysis. Okay, it seems we don't have that book at the moment. So let's say she could be looking for a book on presenting research, right? So we have two books that are on presenting research. So one is geared around quantitative data presentation, and there's one geared around presenting qualitative data, right? So she could also be looking for like any book that maybe is about jobs, or maybe she's trying to find if there are any resources that she can read to enable her to know how she can actually transition or make a career change into UX, right? So we actually have that book right here. So I'd say like there are quite a number of different books that Sarah could actually tap into. It just depends on what she's actually trying to search for. And on Research Bookmark, you can actually be able to come and search for a certain book based on like the topic that you're actually interested in, right? So another area that I could recommend to Sarah, or Sarah would actually look into, is maybe she feels like the course that she actually took was not enough, or she's trying to look for other complementary courses that she could actually take to increase her foundational knowledge, right? So right next to the books collection, we actually have the courses collection, and our courses list compile both free and paid courses. So we have a list of free and paid courses. And one good thing about the platform is you can actually be able to filter by either free or paid courses, right? So let's say you don't have a budget or the financial means to actually maybe take any courses. So you can actually come and filter for free courses, and you can be able to actually see a list of courses that are actually being offered for free, right, that are geared towards UX and UX design. Another thing you can do with our platform is you can actually be able to come and search for a certain course based on like a specific topic that you're interested in, right? So let's say you're looking for courses that are geared towards beginners, right? So you can just come and type in beginners or beginner, and you can actually be able to see how many different courses are actually curated specifically for beginners, right? So for example, we have this course by Career Foundry that is called UX Research for Beginners. So someone like Sarah in this situation, she could be able to come and sort of try and find a free course if she's actually looking for that, or look for a course that is geared towards a specific area or a specific field. Another thing that I would recommend to Sarah is for her to actually come and look for communities to actually join, communities that are actually geared towards people who are actually transitioning or people who are actually in the early stages. And that is one thing that we've actually taken the time to sort of curate on the platform. So we have a collection of communities that are spanned across different platforms, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Discord, to Meetup, and etc. Right? And one thing that we've actually done as well is we've taken the time to sort of define the right audiences for these different communities, so that if you're looking for a very specific community, you can actually be able to join that. So in terms of the different communities that we have here, you can actually join any community that you want. But if you are very specific and maybe you're trying to look for a very specific group, say you are a quantitative researcher and you're just trying to look for a group for quantitative researchers, right? So we have a group called, we have two groups or two communities on the platform that are geared towards researchers interested in the quantitative space, right? For those who are actually transitioning, there is a group on the platform called User Research Collective. So this group is actually pretty famous, or well moderated in the Facebook space, and they usually have even subgroups that are geared towards different areas. So they have a subgroup for people who are actually trying to break into UX as well, and it's very, very, I'd say the response rate in that group is really high, right? So one thing we've tried to do on our platform is not only list communities, but list communities where interaction is really active or the community members are really active. So if you're trying to either pose a question to the community members, there's a high likeliness that you'll actually get the answers that you're actually looking for. So another resource that I would of course recommend to Sarah to actually look into is the research methods, right? So now that she's taken a course, and maybe in the course, like she had a small project that she did where she utilized on some methods, she could be looking to learn other research methods that she can actually utilize, right? So in this case, we actually have a collection of a lot of different research methods that someone like Sarah can actually utilize on. And actually what we've done is we've not only provided a definition of the research method itself, but we've also sort of linked articles that we feel best represent or best define these research methods, right? So we have articles from NNG, we have articles from the UXPA magazine. So we're not only coming on the platform to read what this specific method is, but we're also providing an article that can provide more information on how that method is utilized, when to actually use that method, and etc. Right? So you can actually utilize our search category or a search bar to actually be able to search for whichever method that you're actually interested in maybe utilizing, right? So it could be usability testing, right? So we have qualitative usability testing, but we also have something called the system usability scale. So it's essentially a tool that we usually use, especially when you are running usability testing studies, right? So if you're trying maybe to do contextual inquiry, and maybe you're trying to understand what contextual inquiry is, we have actually availed that here. So you can also be able to click on this article and you'll be taken to the article to read more on what contextual inquiry is. Another thing that I would recommend to Sarah to actually look at is the resource, the vocabulary. So if she's trying to sort of understand the different terminologies that are actually used in the space, now that she's trying to actually get into it, this is another resource that someone like Sarah would actually recommend that she actually looks at, right? So this resource contains a lot of different terminologies that are actually used in the field. So if she has had a certain jargon that the team has actually mentioned, but she's not sure of what that means, she can be able to actually come and search for that, right? So maybe the team could actually be talking about something like jobs to be done or job stories. So she could actually come in and just type job, and we'll actually be able to provide the definition of that in terms of what job stories are. And then an interesting thing that we've actually done when it comes to the vocabularies is we've actually linked these terms to our search engine. So if you're trying to obtain more information about the vocabulary itself, you can actually be able to take you directly to the search engine. So all you have to do is just click on the term itself, and we actually take you to the search engine, and you can be able to read exactly what jobs to be done is. You can be able to watch videos on that, and you can also be able to check out other categories in the search engine and just obtain more information on job stories or jobs to be done. Another area that I would recommend Sarah to actually look at, so we can just quickly go back to the RB collections page. So another area that I would recommend for Sarah to actually look at is the foundational of user experience articles, right? So one thing that I'm trying to sort of place, or one position I'm trying to sort of place Sarah in, is she's maybe trying to work upon a project, right? Or she's trying to look for a project to actually work on, right? So these articles on the foundation of user resources are something that I would recommend Sarah to actually look at, because these are resources that are actually geared towards enabling her to obtain knowledge on the whole end-to-end phase of research, from planning research to conducting research, analyzing research, and presenting research, right? So what we've actually done when it comes to these different articles is we've actually sort of not only put together articles in these different collections, but we've actually taken the time to create categories within these phases, right? So when it comes to like planning research, people are always trying to look for information on research, like creating research plan, on how to involve and engage the stakeholders, to how to actually choose a research method and all that kind of stuff, right? So we've actually tried to break down the articles, our handpicked articles, into the different subcategories. So maybe if you're trying to look for articles on research plan, for example, how to create a research plan, right? So we're actually able to avail that. So you can actually be able to see, different articles on planning UX research, to how to write a qualitative research objective, to writing UX research objective, and a tried and true framework for prioritizing user research, among many other articles, right? So we've actually applied the same strategy or the same structure to the other phases as well. So when it comes to conducting research, if you're trying to look for articles on a specific research method, like for example, user interviews, we've actually compiled a number of articles on that as well. So one thing that we actually realized is people actually do find it beneficial when they're actually able to read articles that other people have written, so that they're able to sort of see somebody else's perspective, and they are able to validate if they can actually be able to apply what other people have applied before, right? So when it comes to analyzing research, we've done the same thing. So if you're trying to find articles on thematic analysis or information visualization, we've actually sort of broken down the areas that are included in the analyzing research phase, and sort of grouped the different articles into that aspect as well. When it comes to presenting research, we've done the same thing. So when it comes to presenting research, people are always trying to understand, how do I tailor my findings based on who I'm actually presenting to, right? So by knowing your audience, you're able to know exactly how to tailor your findings. There are people who could be looking for information on how to write research reports. There are people who could be looking for information on how to design their presentation and all that kind of stuff. So we've actually taken the time to, create these categories, but also subcategories within them, so that you're able to get to the specific resource that you're looking for in the shortest amount of time possible. So that is like one thing that I would recommend for someone like Sarah. There are quite a lot of resources to go through, but those are like the resources that I would recommend for someone in Sarah's situation. So we're going to go into a second scenario. I'm not going to take so much time in this. So we're going to go into the second scenario for a user called Alex. So Alex is a market researcher with a background in data analysis. Alex has become fascinated by the field of UX research and wants to transition into a career as a UX researcher. However, Alex lacks practical experience in UX research methodologies and is seeking guidance on how to break into the field. So for someone like Alex, we can go back to the platform a bit. So there are a lot of different but similar resources that someone like Alex could actually be able to tap into, right? So for someone like Alex who's looking for practical experience, one of the places that I would recommend for Alex to look at is the volunteering opportunities. So if you go back to the collections again, we'll actually see that we do have a collection written volunteering opportunities. So we do have a collection that is right here. So this collection encompasses different experiences that, or different organizations that Alex could actually look into that usually avail opportunities or sort of highlight businesses that are actually looking for UX professionals that can volunteer their skills and their times to work on their products, which could span from websites to mobile apps or even services, right? So we actually have a list of volunteer opportunities that were created by one of the UX professionals that is very vocal on LinkedIn. Her name is Nikki Anderson. So we have like a number of different organizations from Volunteer March. I don't know if any of you have heard of UX Rescue. UX Rescue is pretty famous for that as well. We have Catch a Fire. We also have Hack for LA. There's also the Taproot Foundation. There's Democracy Lab. So you can always come on the platform and just sort of take a look at these different organizations and websites. Some of them have websites, others have Slack channels that you can actually join. And then anytime that they have upcoming opportunities, they always drop them in the Slack channel. So you can always stay updated and kind of, apply for whichever opportunities that you feel are actually fit for you, right? Another resource that I would actually recommend to someone like Alex is, I would recommend that he looks at or he watches like different webinar recordings. So we actually have webinar recordings on the platform. So there are two ways that someone like Alex could actually pursue this sort of thing, right? One could be attending events and conferences and webinars. Two is sort of trying to seek already recorded sessions on different topics that have actually been discussed, right? So we have a vast number of recordings that we've actually sort of laid out on the platform. And what we've actually done in terms of our recordings is we've actually tried to arrange them based on a very chronological order, right? So if you're someone who's like trying to get into the space, or you're someone who's really young in the space, we actually sort of arranged the recordings in a way that it kind of starts from the onset of how to grow as a UX researcher to getting a job, to creating a portfolio, to the different terminologies that you're really supposed to be able to understand, all the way to even our different skill shops where we actually train people hands-on how to actually plan, conduct, analyze, and present research, right? So this is another, I'd say, one of our most recommended collections that we always try to direct people to, because I'd say like there are a lot of different topics that are actually discussed during these webinars, right? So you can take a look at any of them. We have webinars on UX deliverables. We have a webinar on engaging stakeholders in UX research, and even a webinar on collaborating with like cross-functional team members, right? So these are resources that I would recommend someone like Alex to look into and just sort of be able to sort of see if he can actually obtain some amazing insights or important insights from these different recordings. Another resource that I would recommend someone like Alex to actually look at for someone trying to gain practical experiences is, once he's actually able to find a project to actually work on through the volunteering opportunities or any other means, one of the resources I would recommend for him to actually look at is templates. So templates is like one area that, or the materials that we've actually been working on to sort of help people, one, understand like what a generic structure of a template looks like. So there isn't like a one size fits all sort of structure, right? But sorry about that. But there are, of course, like different formats that we've actually worked on that can enable someone like Alex to be able to quickly, use a template and sort of create whichever research artifact that is actually required, right? So just to kind of show you guys one example of a template that we've actually created. So the one thing that we've actually done with our templates is we've not only sort of come and uploaded a template on the platform, but we've actually sort of created like a guide, right? So when you're actually going through a certain template, we sort of provide information on what that guide or that template exactly is and why, when, and how it's actually used. And then we sort of provide a template for you that you can actually be able to download and use for whichever project that you're actually working on, right? So I'll take one of our templates right here. So I'll take the user interview template, for example. So if you're trying to create a user interview guide, for example, or a discussion guide. So we've actually taken the time to not only present you with a template, but also sort of like break down what is actually included in the template, like what's the structure of a user interview guide, and why do we actually have those different structures? Why should you have an introduction bit? Why should you have a bit for like collecting demographic information, right? And then something else that we've actually done as well is, so when you're actually trying to download the template itself, so when you're actually trying to download the template, we've actually included a sample template of that specific template. So in this case, we have the user interview guide, right? So you have the template itself that you can actually be able to duplicate. But if you want to try and see how this template would actually be used in an actual scenario, we've actually created sample templates, right? So this is a sample user interview guide template that we actually created that is actually being used or being applied in an e-commerce website that sells candles, right? So if you're trying to see like how would this template be used in an actual scenario, we've actually created a sample that you can actually be able to go through and see how the structure is and what kind of questions are actually included in this user interview guide, right? So that is one thing that we've also been invested or heavily invested in, and you guys can be able to kind of like go in and sort of explore the templates and see which template would actually be beneficial for you. So the one last thing that I would recommend to Alex to actually check out is the custom UX search engine. So let's say Alex is trying to look for something specific, right? So let's say he's trying to look for, he has a background in data analysis, right? So maybe he's trying to look for how data analysis applies in the UX space, right? So we could come and type in UX research analysis into a custom search engine, and it's actually able to fetch from different, I'd say, databases, and it's actually able to pull data that relates to user research analysis, right? So one thing that we've actually done as well is we've actually tried to sort of create a section on our search engine where we provide plainly, simply defined definitions, so that if you're trying to search for something, but then you're also curious about what it means definition-wise, you can actually be able to sort of see that. But other than that, one of the things we've done in our search engine is we've tried to pull search results from renowned and relevant sources, like UX Booth, Career Foundry, NNG, Smash Magazine, and etc. Right? So you can actually be able to come and see the different search results and pick whichever search result that you actually want to consume. So once you have actually decided on which search result you actually want to read more, something we've done on our search engine is we've introduced something called a summary, right? So what we're actually trying to alleviate at this point is that pain point where users have to open like multiple articles in different tabs and then sort of take the time to go through each article, trying to determine which one to actually read, right? So we've tried to alleviate that pain point by enabling you to see a summary of a specific article before deciding whether you actually want to dig deeper into it, right? So once you go through the summary, you can sort of be able to determine, do I actually want to go through this article? If the summary sounds intriguing to you, then you can actually just click on go to site, and the article is actually opened in a separate tab from the website. So you're still able to go back to the website and you're able to sort of be able to navigate further. Something else we've actually done in our search engine as well is we've added a citation feature. So say you read that article and you're actually either conducting or doing a certain project where you need to provide your references and you'd actually like to use that article as a reference, we've actually created a citation feature where you can actually leverage on different citation methods, depending on what your institution or what kind of citation method you're actually looking for. So you can actually be able to just come and copy whichever citation style that you want to use and then just go and paste it on, on your paper, on your project or wherever, right? Another thing is you can actually save a certain article on your account if you actually want that. And once you've actually saved it, you can actually be able to just go to the saved searches. So saved searches are actually located in the menu section right here. So when you click on save searches, it actually takes you to the save searches and you can see the different things that you've actually been saving over time. So in the event that you find something interesting, but maybe you don't have the time to consume it at that specific moment, you can actually be, just kind of go ahead and save it, and it's actually going to be saved into your account and you can be able to go and check it out later. Something I actually wanted to share about our search engine is that is a bit different from other search engines is we've actually taken the time to sort of like create a category called social results or social insights. So these are basically search results that are from 4 major top social media platforms, right? So you can actually be able to obtain information on what people are talking about when it comes to UX research analysis on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Reddit, and on Quora, right on the platform without having to specifically go and try to conduct that search on these respective platforms. So as you can see, for example, there's a post on LinkedIn where we're actually talking about task analysis. So if Alex is actually interested in this, he can be able to just click on this, kind of get like a summary of that particular post. And then once he clicks on go to site, he can be taken to that particular post on LinkedIn and he can be able to sort of like read more on that, right? If maybe he's trying to see what are people on Quora saying about, talking about when it comes to UX research analysis, you can also be able to see that. So here there's an article that says, is data analytics useful for UX research or design, right? So knowing that Alex had a background in data analysis, this could be something that, or this could be a search result that he could actually be very interested in, right? So he can now go ahead and click on go to site, and then he's taken to that particular post on Quora, and he can be able to see what we're actually saying when it comes to data analysis and its relation to UX research and design. Another thing that I wanted to point out when it comes to a search engine, I kind of won't go through everything, but one last thing I wanted to point out is the courses section. So one thing that we can actually do with our search engine is we not only have the courses in the RB collection section, but we also have a way that we can actually be able to search for courses through our search engine itself, right? So in this instance, Alex can actually be able to see courses on UX research analysis across 4 major platforms. So LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy, and edX, right? So you can just quickly come to the courses category and then filter by the different courses platforms and then find a course that he feels, kind of fully represents what he's actually trying to do. So you can see like on edX, for example, there's a course on UX data analysis. So Alex could actually be interested in that, and all he needs to do is just click on it, kind of see the summary of what that course entails, and then click on go to site, and then he should actually be taken to that specific course on Coursera, right? So I'd say there are quite a number of different things and resources on the platform that people can actually utilize, but the key is being able to know exactly how to find and locate these resources. So I hope that was a bit informative, and I hope it was enlightening in terms of how you can actually use Research Bookmark to locate the different resources that you actually need. So I'm just gonna open up the floor for maybe a few questions before I jump into a new update that we're actually working on that I'd like to share with you. So does anyone have like any questions? You can feel free to drop it in the Zoom chat or in the Q&A section as well. Okay, so I think there's a question. So how does applying for volunteering opportunities differ from applying for jobs? Okay, so I think I'd speak from two aspects, right? So when it comes to like applying for volunteering opportunities, I feel like the barrier to entry is actually lower compared to applying for jobs, right? Like for people who are looking for like UX volunteers, they're not usually, I'd say, as restrictive or as specific as like companies hiring like for specific roles, right? So that is like one way that I feel it differs. And then another thing with volunteering opportunities, some volunteering opportunities are unpaid, which can be a demotivating factor for other people compared to applying for actual jobs that are actually paying, right? But what I usually sort of like recommend is you can actually sort of pursue both at the same time. With the good thing about both, or one thing I'd say that is similar to both, is with both opportunities, whether applying to jobs or volunteering opportunities, at the end of the day, you actually are able to work on an actual real life project and you're able to gain real hands-on experience, right? But the only difference is one seems to have a lower barrier of entry than another, and one has more of unpaid opportunities than paid opportunities. But you can actually pursue both, where maybe if you're having a hard time applying for jobs or getting jobs, maybe we might end up working in one volunteering opportunity or another and be able to obtain the kind of experience that you want at the end of the day, which is like working on an actual project that you can put on your portfolio. And then I think another thing with volunteering opportunities is I feel like for most of their projects, you're not sort of like usually restricted to create like a case study around them that you can put on your portfolio, compared to some jobs where you have to like sign NDAs and all that kind of stuff. So it can be sort of a bit restrictive in terms of how well you can break down your project on your portfolio. So that's how I sort of, I'd say one differs from the other. Does anyone else have another question? Feel free to ask like any UX related questions. I'm always, happy to help. Okay. I think as I kind of await another question from another member of the audience, I'll kind of just sort of speak about something that we've been working on RB that is actually very instrumental or tied to gaining hands-on experience. So let me just kind of share my screen on that. Okay. All right. So okay. All right. So there's the certain program that we started on the Research Bookmark platform that is geared towards helping people gain real hands-on experience working on real projects, right? So it's called the RB Works program, where we provide you an opportunity to work on real projects with real organizations, right? So something that we actually started like a couple of weeks ago. So we actually have 3 projects that we recently opened up for applications. But the thing with this project is for you to actually be eligible for these projects, you have to actually be a subscribed member on the Research Bookmark platform, right? So we sort of provided this sort of service or this program. We've actually availed it to all our subscribed members, so they can actually be able to apply to these projects and be able to actually work with real clients and real organizations and real businesses. So if you're actually interested in working on actual projects, please make sure to join the Research Bookmark platform and sort of subscribe so that you're able to get an email with the respective projects that you can actually partake in. So my colleagues actually shared a link to that. So if you're already a subscribed member of Research Bookmark, you can just go ahead and upgrade your account, and then you'll actually receive an email with the different projects that you can actually apply for. We actually launched those projects this week on Monday. So there's still an opportunity for you to actually apply for them and learn that opportunity to actually work with these different clients. All right, so there's a question on I'm finishing up a PhD, so I'm familiar with many of the methodologies, but it feels like there are not many entry-level jobs in my area. How can an unpaid internship equate to years of experience? Sort of a dilemma. Okay. For me, what I'd say is an internship, whether unpaid or unpaid, I feel like it can actually equate to you gaining some years of experience. So I know the thing with internships is most of them are usually short term, right? But I still feel like as long as in that internship you're actually working on an actual products and interacting with actual users, I still feel like it sort of still equates to you actually gaining some sort of experience, right? So I'd say like it's sort of like applies to the same way where if it's not an internship, say you're working as a freelancer, right? Or you're working in a research agency where you guys work on like short-term projects, right? So you could end up working on like a 3-month research project, right? So the duration taken sort of like equate to the same way you'd work in an internship where you're working on actual products for 3 months, right? So I still feel like it actually counts to your years of experience as long as you actually ended up working on an actual products. There are some people's portfolios that I've actually gone through where when it comes to like the case studies of their internships, like they were like really, really good and even stronger than the case studies of the actual jobs that they ended up working in, right? So, and actually that counted towards me making a decision of hiring that individual, right? Because of a project that they worked on during the internship. So for me, I feel like it actually does equate to your years of experience. So if maybe you are not succeeding in getting like entry-level jobs, but you actually manage to get an internship, as long as you know you're actually going to end up working on an actual product, I'd recommend take it, right? If they can provide you a paid internship, that is even better, right? But just make sure that you are exposed as much as possible to the products and to the users, and you're actually able to gain a true actual experience that you can be able to kind of share with other people or talk about during your interviews. I hope that helped. All right. Okay, so something else I actually wanted to talk about as I wait for another question is, so aside from the RB Works program, we're also offering like portfolio and resume services, portfolio and resume review services, right? So my team and I have been spending time going over people's resumes and their portfolios and even LinkedIn profiles, and just providing practical feedback and recommendations on how they can actually improve them. And even like giving feedback if we actually think that they've actually done a pretty good job on that, right? And then offering different like job searching tips and tricks that they can actually use to, guide the different jobs that they're actually looking for. So if you'd actually want a portfolio and resume review, my colleague has actually shared a link on the Zoom chat, so you can actually just go ahead and sign up on that. And my team will actually communicate to you in regards to that. So if you'd actually like, a portfolio and resume review, and also like LinkedIn as well, so you can actually, sign up on that form and my team will get back to you on that. All right, does anyone else have like a question? I think I can spare like 2 more minutes to answer like any question anyone might actually have. But if there are no other questions, thank you so much everyone for joining me today. I hope the use cases that I used were pretty useful enough for you to help you learn how you can actually fully utilize the Research Bookmark platform. There is so much on the platform that I can't be able to share in 45 minutes. So I hope this at least enlightened you to at least know exactly where these resources are and how you can actually access them. So we'll actually avail this recording on YouTube and share with you guys via email tomorrow so that you can actually bookmark it and save it, and you can watch it whenever you are, trying to explore the Research Bookmark platform. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and have a good rest of your day and your evening.